Hello, it is February the 15th, and we're ready for lesson 46 and workbook for Course in Miracles. And it's God is the love in which I forgive. We've been in the last three lessons, yesterday being God is the mind with which I think, and the day before that, God is the light in which I see. So we're God-ising. So here on today's lesson, God is the love in which I forgive. I ended by talking about how in yesterday's lesson, by how in relationships is where we have the opportunity to learn to forgive ourselves, because we get an opportunity to forgive our neighbor who appears to be outside of ourselves. And particularly in a very, all relationships, but in personal relationships, like in a marriage, girlfriend, boyfriend, those type of relationships, you have a lot of opportunities to always turn the other cheek and go the second mile, as Jesus said it back 2,000 years ago. Before we read it, God is the love in which I forgive, I wanted to bring your attention to a lot of the garden supplies are putting out plants right now, and I always am looking for new cultivars to plant. And this is an ebony king blackberry, which mainly is thornless. It says mainly thornless. It had some nice green leaves, but we're down to like 3 degrees out here in Southwest Missouri. I think it's supposed to get down to 15 below this evening. Tomorrow I'm going to probably show you something that's still going to be nice and green, even at 15 below. I've got something outside. I thought I should show everybody. It's pretty amazing to me that these things do so well, but we'll save that for tomorrow. But, think about this. I counted these. There's 25 blackberries. They're pretty good size, but there's 25 blackberries in this little container that you get at the grocery store. And let's see, that's how many ounces? Let's see, what is that, 8 ounces, I think? This particular one is, oh, wow, it's only 6 ounces. So 6 ounces. So 25 blackberries. 2 of these little packages costs about the same amount as a whole blackberry bush that'll last for your lifetime. So, and it'll reproduce itself. So I encourage you to get some blackberries started. The thornless ones are nice because they, you don't stab yourself when you're picking them. They also have been bred up to produce some pretty good sized blackberries. So this one, like I said, this is an ebony king. I try to get ones that aren't copywritten, so if someone did want to start a nursery and sell plants, you wouldn't have to go getting copyrights. I could see it was alive, but on the way home it kind of got a little bit frost, I think. But yeah, it's doing good. So anyway, Ebony King Blackberry. All right, our lesson for today. God is the love in which I forgive. God does not forgive because he never condemned. Whoa. Think about that for just a minute. God doesn't forgive, and yet a lot of us have built our whole lives on the concept that God is forgiving. Well, in some senses, you could think of him as forgiving because he's so loving. He never holds anything against his beloved child, son or daughter. Of course, the Miracles always used the masculine, but that's for all of us. We're God's son, every one of us. And he loves us, and he never condemns any of us. And this is what we're wanting to aspire to. But listen to what he says. God does not forgive because he never condemned. And there must be condemnation before forgiveness is necessary. Forgiveness is the great need of this world, but that is because it is a world of illusion. Those who forgive are thus releasing themselves from illusions, while those who withhold forgiveness are binding themselves to them, binding themselves to illusions. As you condemn only yourself, so do you forgive only yourself. Remember, that's what I was trying to kind of encourage you about yesterday. We were closing the meeting, that we get another opportunity at salvation, an opportunity to forgive ourselves when we see someone that's making us upset, and we forgive them. we're really forgiving ourselves. We're recognizing our oneness with God. And we're becoming more and more like our Heavenly Father, which is the goal in this world. Paragraph 2. Although God does not forgive, His love is nevertheless the basis of forgiveness. Fear condemns and love forgives. Forgiveness thus undoes what fear has produced, returning the mind to the awareness of God. Remember how I always try to get you guys to remember, be aware of God's blessing? Well, forgiveness is the great tool for doing that. For this reason, which reason? Forgiveness thus undoes what fear has produced, returning the mind to the awareness of God. For this reason, forgiveness can truly be called salvation. It is the means by which illusions disappear. I love what it says in the text, the definition of the text in the workbook for students. We'll get into it, but there's a phrase later on in the book, and it says, forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. We're dreaming a lot of this stuff, guys. Well, I say a lot of this. If it's not holy and loving and beautiful, you're dreaming it. But we can turn these dreams of fear into dreams of love, and then they become real. Today, or paragraph 3, today's exercises require at least 3 full 5-minute practice periods and as many shorter applications as possible. Begin the longer practice periods by repeating today's idea to yourself as usual. Close your eyes as you do so and spend a minute or two in searching your mind for those whom you have not forgiven. Search your mind for those whom you have not forgiven. It does not matter, in quotes, how much you have not forgiven. You have forgiven them entirely or not at all. Whoa! You've either forgiven someone entirely or not at all. What authority our Master Jesus has to even be able to tell us that? I mean, that's like mind-blowing in my mind. We've either forgiven someone completely or not at all. There's no gray area in Jesus's thoughts. And yes, I am totally convinced that this came from Jesus, the man who walked on the soil on planet Earth 2,000 years ago and gave us a whole lot of good teachings like the Sermon on the Mount and taught us how to forgive by turning the other cheek, going the second mile. Okay, continue on and more. Paragraph 4. If you're doing the exercises well, you should have no difficulty in finding a number of people you have not forgiven. It is a safe rule that anyone you do not like is a suitable subject. You got anybody you don't like? They're a suitable subject. Mention each one by name and say, God is the love in which I forgive you, and then say their name. The purpose for the first phase of today's practice is to put you in the best position to forgive yourself. After you've applied the idea for today to all those who have come to mind, tell yourself, God is the love in which I forgive myself. God is the love in which I forgive myself. Then devote the remainder of the practice period to adding related ideas such as, God is the love which I love myself. God is the love in which I am blessed. So anything that comes to your mind that's along this idea that God is the love in which I forgive, just, kind of like we talked about yesterday, you can kind of free will. Let these thoughts kind of come to you. Play with them. Paragraph 10. The form of the application may vary considerably, but the central idea should not be lost sight of. You might say, for example, and he's going to give us a few examples, I cannot be guilty because I am a son of God. I cannot be guilty. Remember, God doesn't condemn. And if God doesn't condemn you, who is there to condemn you other than somebody else that's living an illusion, or yourself living an illusion. You'll wake up from that dream and realize that you can't even condemn yourself in reality, and no one else can either. I love what Jesus said to the woman that was they were going to stone her to death. He said, whoever's not sinned, throw the first stone. And they all one by one walked away. He stood there with her and he said, well, I'm not going to condemn you either. Now just go and sin no more. He said, just live a holy life. Do the best you can. Try not to miss the mark in loving. But I'm not going to condemn you. God doesn't condemn you. Boy, what a beautiful teaching that God doesn't condemn us. The very first sentence in this, God does not forgive because he has never condemned. Wow, what a beautiful thought. Okay, let's go on. I've already been forgiven is another idea. He's given us these examples of God is the love in which I forgive, just ones that you could possibly say. No fear is possible in a mind beloved of God. No fear is possible in a mind beloved of God. There is no need to attack because love has forgiven me. There is no need to attack anyone, for love, what? Has forgiven me. Wow. And the last little bit here. The practice period should end, however, with a repetition of today's idea in its original form, or as originally stated. God is the love in which I forgive. He wants us to make sure we come back to that original thought at the end. And then he goes on in the very last paragraph. He says, the shorter applications may consist either of a repetition of the idea for today in the original or in a related form as you prefer. Be sure, however, to make more specific applications if they are needed. They will be needed at any time during the day when you become aware of any kind of negative reaction to anyone, present or not. In this event, tell him silently, God is the love in which I forgive you. You don't have to say that out loud to the person, but if they're causing you a little irritation or upset, that's your opportunity to say to them silently, God is the love in which I forgive you. So, it should be getting easier and easier to see all of God's blessings. Until tomorrow, peace be with you.